So when we buy a home, right, a lot of us be so excited to buy our first home. Like we're so eager to show that we did it on our own. Like it's almost like I'm a big kid, I'm a big boy, I'm a big girl. I did it on my own. I saved up for the down payment, went through the process, picked it out, got approved, everything. So much so we get so excited that oftentimes we may overlook something, right? Did we really do thorough research on the house that we bought? Do we know if it had any disturbing backstories or things that could have happened or occurred in this house? Did you ask those questions? Well, take a look at this. This is normal looking houses with disturbing backstories. I think you need to see this.
It's customary to visit places, point out buildings of interest, or remark on a particularly quaint or luxurious-looking home. However, some normal-looking homes hold haunting secrets within their walls. In this video, we will look at 5 such homes that, if walls could talk, would recite the true horrors that occurred in them. Hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy. The Cursed Mansion. For decades, a multi-million-dollar mansion has been left empty in an upscale neighborhood in Los Feliz, Los Angeles. The house gained a reputation for being cursed ever since its first residents moved in nearly 100 years ago. The reputation was solidified in 1959 when it was the scene of an unspeakable crime.
Did you see that? Doctor kills wife in a frenzy of nightmare. We often think of people with money as having it all together. Not a lot of them do.
Officially known as Glendower Place, the 5,050 square foot mansion was built in 1925. Its first owners were Harold and Florence Schumacher. However, within 3 years of the purchase of their dream home, they were both dead. More tragedy followed for the next owner, magazine editor Welford Beaton. His son passed away in the house just days before his 21st birthday, and a year later, Beaton faced bankruptcy. The house was then sold to Dr. Harold Perelson, and he moved in with his wife Lillian and their 3 children. However, on the night of December 6, 1959, Dr. Perelson went crazy and bludgeoned his wife to death with a ball-peen hammer and attempted to beat his 18-year-old daughter, Judy. However, Judy managed to escape and call for help. When police arrived, they found Perelson dead next to his wife after he took a fatal concoction of water, acid, and tranquilizer pills. Thankfully, his 2 other children were unharmed.
What that sound like to y'all? It sound like he caught her cheating, right? That's normally when you hear those type of situations happen. Caught her cheating, did something to her, then did something to himself, the kids, and was just like, it's just over for everybody. But that's what that sounds like to me. That don't sound like money. That sounds like she might have been cheating. I don't know.
It is unknown why the doctor snapped. However, police at the time believed it was due to money troubles. It was also revealed that he had been hospitalized after World War II with mental problems. A year after the murder-suicide, the house was bought by Emily and Julian Enriquez. They never lived in it and never changed the original decor. In 1994, their son inherited the house, and like his parents, neither stayed nor made any changes to the mansion. Over the years, neighbours and visitors reported peering through the grimy windows and seeing a place frozen in time. They observed a 1950s-style television set, a Christmas tree, and neatly wrapped gifts in the dusty rooms. In 2016, the house was purchased by civil rights attorney Lisa Bloom, known for her work with Harvey Weinstein. It's unclear whether she ever lived there, but she sold the property in 2020 for $2.4 million, after it had been completely renovated.
Now, a lot of y'all be like, I wonder if people, and don't get me wrong, I know what I said at the beginning, like, some people don't know the history of a home when they buy it. But some people do and are willing to pay. That's the crazy part about that side of it. Like, they can sell you a story on a home and a person will pay top dollar for it, which is crazy to me. I wouldn't buy this home, not with this history.
The house was sold to a real estate investor. However, it seems things didn't work out, and at the time of writing this, the house is at risk of foreclosure and is scheduled to be sold. It will be interesting to see if anyone is willing to take on a house where one of Hollywood's most infamous crimes took place. Would you? (942) Beachcomber Lane. This house in Clear Lake, Houston, looks ordinary enough. However, never judge a book by its cover, as this is where a mother drowned her 5 children in the family bathtub. Registered nurse Andrea Kennedy married Russell Yates, a NASA engineer, in 1993. Both were deeply religious and announced after their wedding day that they would seek to have as many babies as nature allowed. The couple went on to have 5 babies, despite Andrea's struggles with postpartum psychosis and depression. In fact, after the birth of their 4th child, Andrea's psychiatrist urged the couple not to have any more children. Sadly, a warning that was not heeded. After giving birth to her 5th child in March 2000, Andrea seemed to be coping well. However, that changed when her father died on March the 12th, 2001. She was deeply affected by his passing and stopped taking her medication, spiraling into depression and suicidal thoughts. Andrea was hospitalized on more than one occasion, and after her last release, her husband was advised to supervise his wife around the clock. But sadly, again, this advice was not heeded. On June the 20th, 2001...
Wait. How is that possible? You release her home to me, and I have to watch her around the clock. There's no possible way and expect me to go to work and provide for my family. Why don't we just keep her in the hospital, get someone to help us with the kids if possible, until she's well? Like, clearly she isn't well. Like, what do you mean? How am I gonna do that? Like, I don't know who signed off on that and thought that was the smart thing to do, but that don't sound good to me.
1. Russell left for work, leaving Andrea alone at home with their 5 children. His mother was due to arrive within the hour to help out. However, in the space of that hour, Andrea Yates drowned all 5 children in the bathtub. John, aged 5, Paul, aged 3, and Luke, aged 2, were first to be killed, and Andrea laid their bodies in her bed. Then, after killing baby Mary, aged 6 months, she laid her body in John's arms. Last to be killed was 7-year-old Noah, who she left floating in the bathtub. Andrea then called the police, reportedly saying she needed an officer, but refusing to say why. She then called Russell, and told him to come home right away. When officers arrived, they discovered the heartbreaking scene. After police arrested Andrea, she immediately confessed that she was the woman who drowned her kids. She even told them that she waited for her husband to leave before filling the bathtub and killing them, and even locked the family dog in the kennel that morning to keep him from interfering, indicating a degree of premeditation. She later told a psychiatrist that her children would not grow up to be righteous, and believed killing them before they turned sinful would save them from hell, and that only her own execution for killing them would defeat Satan on earth. During her trial, it was revealed that Andrea had struggled with her mental health throughout her life, and in addition, had been dangerously influenced by the religious teachings of Michael Warreniki, an unaffiliated cleric who preached a zealous form of righteousness that emphasized austere family living. In March 2002, a jury rejected her insanity defense and found Yates guilty. She was sentenced to life in prison with parole eligibility in 2041. However, in 2005, an appeals court discovered that false testimony by an expert for the prosecution had tainted the 2002 trial. As a result, Yates earned a new trial where she was declared not guilty by reason of insanity. She was sentenced to remediation in the Kernville State Hospital, a low-security mental health facility in Texas. Every year that her release comes...
Somebody make that make sense to me. Make that make sense to me. I am at a loss. Like, make that... How does that even happen? She confessed out of her own mouth. She confessed. She said she did that, told you how she did it. Like, I don't understand. Like, bro. If this isn't a sign that our system is one of the worst systems in the world. Think about those babies, bro, who had no control over their lives being taken. Think about those babies. There's no way in the world. I don't get it. Maybe this is worse and I'm looking at this wrong. If it is, y'all help me understand. I'll read through the comments, but I can't, man. I can't understand it.
Comes up for review, Andrea rejects it. She will likely spend the rest of her life at the facility. For a more in-depth look at this heinous case, head over to our Murderous Minds channel. Houses of horror. These two unassuming houses in the suburbs of London hide the horror of their gruesome history, as these are the two former houses of one of Britain's most prolific serial killers, Dennis Nilsen. The first house is 195 Melrose Avenue in Cricklewood, northwest London, where Dennis Nilsen rented a flat and murdered his first victim in 1978. He went on to murder at least 12 other young men at the house and hid their bodies under the floorboards. When the stench became too unbearable, he removed and dissected the corpses and burned the remains on a communal bonfire on waste ground behind his flat.
Sounds like he was influenced by Gacy. Didn't Gacy have the bodies up under the floorboards and the smell, it was just unbearable? Wasn't that him, or was that somebody else I'm thinking about?
Nilsen crowned the bonfire with an old car tire to disguise the smell of the burning flesh. In mid-1981, Nilsen's landlord decided to renovate the property and asked him to move out. In a panic the day before he vacated his flat, Nilsen burned the last of the dissected bodies remaining in the flat, again ensuring the bonfire was crowned with an old car tyre to disguise the smell. On October the 5th, 1981, Nilsen moved into a flat at 23D Cranley Gardens in the Muswell Hill district of North London. In his new home, Nilsen had no access to a garden. Because it was an attic flat, he was unable to stow any bodies beneath his floorboards. However, this didn't stop his killing spree, and the victims he murdered between 1982 and 1983 were retained at the flat. He boiled their heads, hands, and feet to remove flesh, and flushed it along with smaller bones down the toilet. On February the 4th, 1983, Nilsen wrote a letter of complaint to estate agents saying that the drains at Cranley Gardens were blocked, and the situation for both himself and the other tenants at the property was intolerable. A few days later, Dino Rod's drain clearance arrived to diagnose the problem. After opening a drain cover at the side of the house, they discovered it was packed with a flesh-like substance and numerous small bones of unknown origin. Fearing they may be human, the workers called the police. A pathologist soon confirmed the remains were human, and it was established they had been flushed from the top floor flat that Nilsen occupied. When officers paid Nilsen a visit, they were immediately overwhelmed by the smell of rotting flesh. Soon after, human remains were discovered and Nilsen was taken to the police station. En route, officers asked him whether the remains in his flat belonged to one person or two. He replied, 15 or 16, since 1978. Nilsen was brought to a trial on the 24th of October 1983, charged with 6 counts of murder and 2 of attempted murder. He pleaded not guilty on all charges on the grounds of diminished responsibility. The jury reached a majority verdict of guilty on all counts and sentenced Nilsen to life imprisonment with a recommendation that he serve a minimum of 25 years. This was later changed to a whole life tariff in December 1994. As a result, Nilsen was effectively imprisoned for life, a punishment he accepted and chose not to appeal. Nilsen stayed at HMP Full Sutton until he passed away on May the 12th, 2018, at the age of 72. Both of the properties connected to his crimes have now been renovated and are occupied. Mount Pleasant Cottage, Caynws, Powys, Mid Wales. This quaint little cottage in the Welsh countryside became pivotal to the investigation into the disappearance of 5-year-old April Jones. On the evening of October the 1st, 2012, April pleaded with her parents to let her play with her friend outside, even though it was late. Eventually, her parents agreed, with her mother telling her not to stay out for too long. After about 20 minutes, April's mother became concerned about her whereabouts and went outside to call her back in. After being unable to find her, she called 999. April was last seen at around 7:15 p.m. playing with her friends at the Brynigog housing estate in Machynlleth. The first officer on the scene spoke to a child witness who reported seeing April climbing into a grey van. A large-scale search took place in Machynlleth.
Have those conversations, y'all. Have those conversations. You know, you got to. I think the problem is a lot of times we be thinking it won't happen where we live. This neighborhood where we live is a nice neighborhood and we pay a lot of money and it's safe here. No, those neighborhoods are targets too. Those are targets, bro. Have the conversations with your kids, seriously.
With numerous civilians, some alerted by social media, joining in. The number of searchers swelled to hundreds by the early morning hours of the 2nd of October. Even the Prime Minister at the time, David Cameron, appealed to the public for April's safe return. It became the largest missing person search in UK police history. Local man Mark Bridger soon became a suspect as he matched the description of the man the eyewitness had seen April with before getting into his van. Despite the absence of a body, on the 6th of October, Bridger was charged with abduction, murder, and attempting to pervert the course of justice. At his trial, a forensic expert told the court that fragments of human bone consistent with a younger individual had been found in the fireplace at Mount Pleasant Cottage. Blood was also found in the cottage that matched April's DNA. On the 30th of May 2013, Bridger was found guilty of all charges and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life order. Bridger has never revealed what he did with April's body, but police believe he scattered April's remains across the countryside near his house. In 2014, Mount Pleasant Cottage was purchased by the Welsh Government, who demolished it in November of the same year. The demolition was watched by April's parents. Although April's body was never found, 17 fragments of bone recovered from the fireplace in Bridger's cottage were buried at a funeral service on the 26th of September 2013. Alex Murdaugh Moselle Family Estate. This stunning house is part of the 1,772-acre South Carolina hunting lodge in rural Colleton County, which was formerly owned by legal dynasty heir Alex Murdaugh. But don't be fooled by its stunning facade. It is also the site of suspected drug smuggling, the mysterious death of long-term housekeeper Gloria Satterfield, and a grisly double murder. After Satterfield's death in 2018, Murdaugh claimed that dogs caused her to fall down the stairs to force his insurers to make a settlement payment that he pocketed. On June 7, 2021, at 10:07 p.m, Alex Murdaugh called 911 to say he had found the lifeless bodies of his wife Margaret and their son Paul near the family's dog kennels on their sprawling estate. They had both been shot multiple times in the head, wrists, and chest with different guns. When officers arrived, Murdaugh claimed that he had been with his mother, who has dementia, at the time of the killings. However, cell phone data, including a video containing his voice, placed him at the scene. Initially, Murdaugh was considered a suspect, but it took more than a year for him to be arrested. In July 2022, he was charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of weapon possession. During this time, Murdaugh attempted to hire someone to kill him unsuccessfully, allegedly so that his older son could collect his life insurance. Additionally, numerous charges relating to financial crimes were brought against him. During what was dubbed the trial of the century, Murdaugh pleaded not guilty, but admitted to repeatedly lying to police officers about being at the kennels on the night of the murders. He attributed these lies to paranoid thinking due to his addiction to drugs. He also confessed to stealing from his legal clients and his firm, as well as asking a relative to shoot him. On March 2nd, 2023, after less than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Murdaugh guilty of 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possession of a weapon during a violent crime. Because of the...
Some people just look guilty. And he definitely one of those people, bro. Just to me, I don't know, this aura and vibe that he give off with his eyes, and he got that darkness. Right? Yeah, like, bro, I don't know. I don't know. It's just something about him that tells you that, yeah. You did it. You did it.
Intense public interest in the case, the verdict was transmitted live across the United States on all major news networks. Murdaugh was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He is currently residing at McCormick Correctional Institution in an 8 by 10-foot cell, a far cry from the luxury mansion he used to live in.